28 years of experience, quite a journey, I would say. Seen everything from desktop applications, standalone applications, to the contemporary applications built on cloud. So we will be talking about some of the interesting dimensions of cloud. I'll give some numbers at you. I'll throw some numbers at you. We'll also take a look at what this industry actually offers to all of us as professionals. Okay? All right, so let's begin. So let's take a look at some of these, right? The magnitude of the field is just enormous. Cloud computing. So some of the really interesting and astonishing investments that are happening, not just by the enterprises, but also the cloud providers themselves. Take a look at that, $500 billion of, spend in public cloud. That's no small number. Look at the number of organizations that are looking to, have a diversified portfolio of their cloud investments, 81%. And they're saying, hey, listen, it's not just going to be a single cloud. We are looking at considering perhaps multiple clouds, best of both worlds. Hey, you know what? If there is one cloud provider who's great at something, and if some other cloud provider is great at something, why not bring both of them on board? And it's not just the enterprise who are spending the money. It's also the cloud providers themselves who are investing a significant amount of money. Look at that, a third of their overall investments are, to make their infrastructure better, 35% to make their infrastructure better. Right now, why is this happening? There's got to be something. Cloud computing has to have certain, benefits that the enterprises are absolutely loving. Let's take a look at slightly different perspective, right? Some more numbers, but this time let's look at it. What are the individual aspects that might be really the, you would say, icing on the cake, which cloud providers are offering? Look at that. About 20%, as I already mentioned, of spend is coming from hybrid cloud and multi-cloud scenario, which means the organizations are saying, look, you know what? Cloud is great, no doubts about that. Multi-cloud is great, that's fine too. But you know what? We also would like to retain some of our existing investments. In other words, you want to have an on-prem scenario where you have certain applications, your existing infrastructure continues to be in your own data center, perhaps your own server room, and you can leverage the additional capacity that you need, the additional set of services that cloud is so good at that you need from the cloud, and you want to put them together. Hybrid cloud. Cloud computing is also really looking to push the boundaries, right, of their data centers. And what I mean by that is, imagine you are in some city and a cloud provider comes along and says, hey, I got a data center in your city. You can put your applications in servers that are in your city, and therefore you can enjoy very low latency. Wouldn't that be nice? Imagine the cloud provider comes and says, the next time when you make a phone call, this is particularly applicable to telcos, the call data record, your mobile phone, every time you make a phone call, there's something called as a CDR that gets generated. That data can be stored directly on the cloud without having to do any kind of hops in the middle. No local data center necessary. Wouldn't that be nice? Imagine if the cloud says, hey, you know what? I can give you a physical rack, a proper physical rack that you can get and put it in your server room. That rack behaves exactly like the cloud. The same standard console, same powerful set of tools and utilities that you enjoy otherwise from the cloud. So while we are talking about all of these really awesome capabilities of the cloud, there's one very interesting aspect which is really taking the world by the storm, and that is serverless. You must have heard of this term called, it's cloud native applications. Applications which essentially are designed and built in a way which assumes the availability of cloud. In other words, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm not going to have any on-prem presence whatsoever. I'm going to have everything on the cloud. Now, whether it is databases, application servers, my middleware, my warehousing, whatever it might be, everything goes onto the cloud. In this entire vast ocean of possibilities, there is one term, serverless, that stands out. It's essentially saying, look, you, the enterprise, you, the organization, the user of the cloud, start focusing on building absolutely wonderful applications to delight your customers. You don't even have to worry about servers. We got that for you. You don't have to worry about storage. We got that for you. You don't have to worry about networking. Taken care of. Don't worry about scale. Taken care of. What is this kind of offering? This is serverless, or function as a service is just a synonym of that. You can see the amount of investments that are going on in these. Big data, IoT, microservices, managed services are all the present terms. They are not the future. Cloud computing is not the future. Cloud computing is present. Probably about 10 years back, if somebody would have asked a question, well, what is the future of, computing? People would have said, yeah, maybe cloud computing, but not in, this year, not in 2021. So what the enterprises do today, what kind of skills do you think they will need? They need people like you. Now the question is, this is great, all right? So cloud is giving us great services, fine, fantastic, right? Now the question is, what makes the enterprise really, get delighted by some of these services? What do you think is the DNA, the sole reason? Isn't that staying ahead of competition? Isn't that the holy grail that enterprises have been, shooting for a long period of time? Okay, so here are two organizations. One is agile, the other one is fragile. Well, maybe not fragile, right? The one that doesn't innovate as fast. There is this organization that is responding to customer demands rather quickly. Here's an organization that is changing their application, providing features, capabilities to their customers at a really fast rate. Where do you think the customers are going to go? Right? So at the end of the day, enterprises that can give out features, enterprises that can innovate themselves, enterprises that can, alter their systems, enterprises that can change the way they interact with their customers, the more responsive an enterprise is, obviously the customers are going to love those enterprises. And in order for you to do that, in order for an enterprise to get there, you definitely need the tools that allows you to do things at a much faster rate than you have in the past. Imagine a situation, you've written a new application, and what you're essentially saying is, look, I am going to now order servers. Those servers are going to show up probably 3 weeks from now. Once the servers do show up, I need to load the operating system. You get where I'm going with this. Today, we are basically talking about an agile development methodology that has sprints, and your sprints could be as short as a week. You decide something, Friday evening, feature is live. That kind of velocity is what we need. So obviously, enterprises are looking at the third-party, cloud providers who can help deliver these. So who are these? Let's take a look at Gartner's report, the Magic Quadrant, which is current as of now. AWS is sitting pretty at the top. They have been doing that for quite some time, followed by Microsoft Azure, followed by GCP, and there are others. So these cloud providers are looking at an enormous scale. They're saying that, look, we have worldwide presence. They're saying, look, I've got, data centers around the world. These cloud providers are saying, hey, I am design. My expertise lies around data center management. My expertise lies around giving you managed services. My expertise lies around 200 odd services that a typical enterprise requires. I'm going to give you those as a tool. Why don't you use them? It's like, a magic, toolbox. You open that, you find everything, right? To fix your house, you need tools for plumbing. If you are in home, improvement, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Imagine there's no tool that has gone missing. Everything is available. Imagine that coming out as for IT. What's even better is these services are offered to you at a pay-as-you-go model. So look at this now. If I want a database for 5 minutes, I pay for 5 minutes. Now, what use case would you have where you're paying for a database for 5 minutes? Well, during development, maybe you want to do a quick test of a couple of minutes and you want to set something up, you can. You really don't need something that is long lasting. There are no upfront costs. It's just incredible. So pay as you go is the mantra. Isn't that nice? So enterprises are saying, okay, so earlier I had to get a machine, a hardware. I need to have a server room where the hardware is going to sit. I need to make sure that the server doesn't heat up. So for that, I need cooling. If I lose electricity, I need the diesel generator. For the diesel generator to work, I need diesel and I need all of that. None of that is necessary. Awesome. And look at the adoption. Right, look at AWS, Azure, Google. So it's a completely separate, the right-hand side graph is a completely separate, survey. They pretty much say the same thing. These cloud providers have come leaps and bounds in terms of the set of services that they offer. Now you might be wondering, okay, so is data center the only thing that they offer? We heard that you talked about some databases or something like that. What are those called? They're actually called managed services. But anyway, I don't want to basically, confuse you or bore you with all of these terms. Why don't I talk to you about how a real customer is using cloud services? You guys are all practitioners. So if I give you an example, you'll be able to relate better. Take a look at this. Nielsen. This is a real use case, publicly available, of course. Nielsen, 55 terabytes of data processed per day with serverless. I just now talked about serverless. You saw the numbers in terms of serverless innovation and the investments that are going in to provide these services. It's just incredible. One aspect that I want to bring out in this case study. Look at the day where they got the maximum data. 55 terabytes of data. And look at the normal typical day that they usually get in terms of data processing. A terabyte to about 6 terabytes. 6 terabytes tops normal operations. 55 terabytes, suddenly huge workload. Help me understand this. If I were to do this kind of infrastructure implementation using on-prem, how would I know that my highest workload is going to be 55 terabytes? What would be my reaction the moment I see 55 terabytes worth of data is hammering my data center and my existing investments are crumbling under this kind of workload? What am I talking about here? Wouldn't it be nice if I had a capability where whether I get a few hundreds or thousands of requests vis-a-vis 55 terabytes of data, doesn't matter where my workload is, my infrastructure can scale automatically and adjust and absorb this kind of workload. Wouldn't that be nice? So my point to you is, with the cloud, you also get an incredible capability of elasticity. The cloud provider will basically give you the tools to create an infrastructure that has the ability to scale from an average day, 6 terabytes of data, to really an outlier day of close to 60 terabytes of data. 6 to 60. But remember, I use the word, the cloud will give you the tools. It is professionals like you who's going to set it up. Like I said, it's that magic toolbox. The tools are there, but you still have to use it. On many occasions, the enterprises require the skills to come and help build infrastructure like this. Let me show the second case study. Let me talk to you about this. Now, while the previous one was in advertising, media, and all of that, this one is in healthcare, and specifically healthcare for women. This is a case study that was presented in the recently ongoing event that AWS is hosting. Now, if you really look at it, IoT, I mean, everybody talks about IoT, isn't it? Right, what's IoT? You've got these devices. These devices transmits the data. The data has to be caught by the server. You need to store the data. You need to process the data. You need to drive analytics on it. You need to figure out, in case of healthcare, are there any problems? And if so, you need to respond to it, things like that. Well, again, let me take that example of, a couple of servers in your data center. Well, that would be great if you have a few hundreds or maybe a few thousands of devices out there. What happens if your product, your service, your offering becomes really popular and you have a worldwide launch? Your users are worldwide users. Everybody talks about Fitbit, right? I mean, all kinds of wearable devices, pretty much everybody wears it. These devices are transmitting data, of course, privately to your account. So you need servers, you need storage, you need compute to capture all this data and provide analytics through all kinds of devices, web, mobile, anything. In fact, these devices are so smart these days, you can actually see weather in your smartwatch, isn't it? So something somewhere is crunching all that data, personalizing that, and sending it across to you. And whenever we are talking about healthcare, it's even critical, even more critical. Something somewhere has to process all of this data in real time to perhaps save lives. How about I told you that, hey, why not have a device which is connected to, let's say, a physical machine? Let's say here's a factory floor, there are a bunch of furnaces, and those furnaces get hot. The people, the operators working around that, they are in constant danger. If something were to go wrong with that furnace, what happens to them? Imagine this device, which is connected to that furnace, is collecting data in real time, and your cloud is processing it. And in case something it detects which is out of the ordinary, it can remotely shut down that furnace, saving lives. The same thing can be applied to healthcare as well, right? So IoT, whether you're talking about healthcare, whether you're talking about machinery, whether you're talking about oil rigs, whether you're talking about electricity and smart meters, that's where things are going. And you cannot predict how many customers are going to buy your device. So how are we going to pre-order servers? Everything is agile, isn't it? Let's talk about food, restaurant. How about that? So imagine, you know what, I want to talk to you slightly differently in this. I'm not going to talk to you about technology. Those of you who are looking at this picture and you're going, whoa, what is that? No, the idea of this is, I'm not going to walk you through it. The idea of this session is not for you to understand this. But there's one thing certainly clear. Don't you think when you integrate, when you work with customers, do you think the application is going to be one box servers, one box database, one box backup? Do you think that's how it's going to be? It's definitely a lot more complex than that. The question is, what kind of skills do you need to create something like this? Let's do a role play. Okay, let's do a role play. I'm going to do 3 role plays here. Number 1, you're the architect, software architect, okay? and the customer calls up and says, hey, you know what, I'm looking to build a 360-degree platform or view of my customers. I want to know a little bit more about them. I want to know what they liked. I want to know what they didn't like. Any kind of feedback they have. Maybe something, they would want, which I'm not offering as a service. Maybe some dishes that most of my customers are looking to get, but I don't have it on my menu. I want to build a platform like that. And I don't want to invest anything because I don't know whether it's going to work or not. Whatever you build, I don't know whether it's going to work or not. So I'm not willing to commit any fixed fee or other in terms of investments. Of course, they will definitely pay you your consulting fee, that's for sure, right? But let's just put it this way. They're not interested in buying any hardware. Maybe they have, worked with a cloud provider, and AWS is saying, AWS is just an example, Amazon Web Services is just an example. Same thing could be applicable for Google as well as, Microsoft. Hey, listen, I got this architecture. Can you just come and validate this? Do you think implementing this would make sense? Do you think customers like this are all around us? Yes. Do you think if you knew all these services really well, would you be in a better position to have a meaningful conversation with your customer to say that, yeah, that's a great reference architecture, but you know what? Having spoken to you, you don't need these components. And you can get into a consulting assignment, right, where you're able to advise your customers how to customize probably an industry standard reference architecture, which is very, very specific, bespoke for that customer. Wouldn't that be nice? You're a manager. You're responsible for delivering this project. Don't you think you're responsible for budget overruns? Don't you think you're responsible for controlling costs? Don't you think you're responsible for getting the people needed to deliver something like this? And if you knew a little bit more about what was being attempted, don't you think you would be in a better position to take those decisions, to go out there and get people, hire people perhaps? Let's, also talk about sales. Wouldn't it be really great if you knew some of these technologies? Don't you think you would be in a better position to get into a meaningful conversation in the initial days when the customer is trying to reach out to your organization with a potential opportunity of implementing something on the cloud? Rather than saying, yeah, hi, yeah, okay, I'm going to have the architect call you back. Imagine that. Versus if you knew some of these things, right, you could potentially ask questions to the customer. Oh, that's great initiative. What are you looking at? Right? How much time do you have at hand? How much, what are the kinds of features are you looking at? What kind of data do you think you would be generating? What kind of analysis do you think you intend to do? Agreed, as a sales professional, you would not be required to do coding. No questions about that. You won't be required to do any deployment. No questions about that. But if the team comes back and says, oh, you know what, this is $1.5 million dollar deal, would you go, really? I didn't think it would be that much. Do you think you would be in a better position to discuss the nuances because you know how the services work? You may not be implementing it. So net, what I'm trying to tell you is the more you know about these services, the more valuable you become, not just to your organization, but to your customers. And there's an all-round benefit everybody enjoys. So I gave you the example of a media organization or an analytics organization, gave you an example of, somebody in IoT, in healthcare, gave you an example, restaurants. So if you really look around you, cloud is there everywhere. Cloud is indeed ubiquitous. We take cloud for granted. All the things that we use today, whether we are getting a cab through Uber, whether you are ordering food via some food delivery aggregator, everybody is using cloud. We just don't see it. We just take it for granted. Even the most conservative of industries, such as the financial industry, is also moving over to the cloud. So naturally, cloud is here to stay. There's a lot of demand in cloud, and there's a lot of demand for cloud professionals. It's an obvious conclusion, isn't it? Somebody's got to go out there, right, and put together the enterprise's demands and needs and the cloud provider's services. Somebody has got to bridge this gap. And that's people like you, the professionals. Now, I'm not saying, it's all about technology work. No, not at all. It's not just about technology. Yes, cloud computing is a technical field, no doubts about that. Much like how, if you want to be a mechanic, it is about vehicles, right? When you are talking about, any other industry, it will be about that. Whether you are manufacturing chips, potato chips, oh, you like that, don't you? you like, you want to make potato chips, or you're making aircraft engines, right? Database is still database. Applications are still applications. You need people who can potentially build these systems for these industries. And when you're talking about people, it's not just about technology. You need management. You need financial controllers. You need operations people. You need obviously developers. You need architects. You need consultants. You need the leads who can set up center of excellences in your organization. And needless to say, with the proliferation of cloud, these roles are in heavy demand. Now, the question is, what kind of roles? And I'm not talking about, whether it's an architect or a developer. By kind, I mean, what is the core skill of a particular person that really is valuable or perceived as valuable to an enterprise? Look at what this sentiment is. We hire skilled solution architects, not paper certified ones. In other words, those who can do, those who can actually roll up their sleeves and get things done. No, I'm not talking about code. How about writing a proposal? How about creating a project plan? How about creating a budgeting forecast? How about predicting what kind of skills you would like to invest in if you're the center of excellence leader? How about you, the business unit head, who's looking to steer the direction, right, towards the next generation to be able to cater to customers with these needs? Wouldn't it be nice? Now, if you really look at it, these days, the demands from enterprises, the requirements of an individual in terms of skills is very different. Well, I'm going to just take an example. Say, in 1991, if you knew C, that was it. You'd get placed, right? In your interviews, it would be just C syntax. Well, can you write that if then else? Okay, yeah, that's good, that's good. Some switch case here and there. Okay, that's good. You're hired, right? That's not what it is today, right? You're basically required to know many more fields, many more areas before you become valuable. It is quote unquote multidisciplinary, right? The last part, right? You really need to put your head together and make things work, right? It's not just about drawing pretty pictures, right? Okay, historically that was a joke on the architects that these guys really know rainbow colors. The diagrams that they make is all looking excellent and pretty and all that. While that is great, at the end of the day, you will be required, right, to get things done. That's precisely what customers pay for. Okay. Now, there are several other fields, right? Your understanding of the domain, your understanding of the finances, technology, and everything else, no doubts about that. But there is one dimension that beats them all. There's one thing if an individual does not have, I do not think, given the best of opportunities, that works out well. And that's motivation. So far, we've discussed the opportunities, what cloud presents, how industries have used cloud. All of this talk is not going to be meaningful if an individual is not motivated. Question is, are you motivated to be a great cloud architect? Are you motivated to be a great manager? Are you motivated to have that amazing conversation to impress your customer as a sales professional, rather than just saying, well, let me get my architect on the call the next time around? Motivation makes people do crazy things. Look at that. This individual jumped from space with just a parachute. No, 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 no. We are not going to make you jump off of space. Speaking of clouds, no, we are not going to do that. Right? But my point is, if you are not motivated enough, right, then it's going to be hard. But something tells me you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't be giving an hour, right, in the evening after a long day's worth of work, right, listening to this. So the question is, if you're motivated, then now in the second part of the segment of this talk, let me try to show you how the postgraduate program in cloud computing from Great Learning can help you in this journey. And what are the building blocks? What is it that we offer? Please note that this is not a supplemental skill, right? Let's forget about all this PPT work. What I'm going to talk to you about now is, it is not a supplemental skill. We are not going to say, oh yeah, you have 12 years of experience. Yeah, you got to forget everything. Oh, you're just now starting your career. Okay. So whatever you did in college, nah, ditch that. You've 20 years of experience. Yeah, you got to forget whatever you have done. Not at all. PGPCC from Great Learning, right, is a supplemental project which builds on top of the skills that you have. Isn't that nice? The reason, because this program is by practitioners for practitioners such as you, right? The group that runs PGPCC here in Great Learning, right, all are industry experts. And I'm going to talk about, a few of those guys. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, right, in terms of you get to see who actually delivered this. And this is just a representational list. I'm going to come to that later. I hope you are able to understand this is not a supplemental, but a transformational using the existing skills that you have. So the question is, a lot of the onus rests on you, because I don't think anybody can define what you need to be. I don't think anybody is qualified but you to decide what you want to be. So we can only offer you a buffet of what cloud offers. And you choose, that looks interesting. I want to build a vertical expertise in that. But you need to know what the buffet looks like. There could be certain areas that you don't like. Yeah, a lot of food examples, right? But you get the point, isn't it? But you know what? Are you motivated enough to go to the buffet? Are you motivated enough to see what the program has to offer in terms of what this field is about? You know the opportunity exists. We already saw the numbers. So this is a picture that is straight from our website. What I'm going to talk about here is all published in the postgraduate program in cloud computing on the Great Learning website. So it's a fairly comprehensive program. Let me tell you that. And, there are several cases, people from sales background who have not just completed this course, but have done wonderful things. In fact, I'll give you an example where there is this individual who is not from development background, and this was quite some time back, and he was extremely, doubtful whether this course would be applicable for him or not. 2.5 years later, the same individual wins an award from a cloud provider for creating the most unbelievable flexible, scalable cloud infrastructure for a telco in Africa. Can you believe that? It's just phenomenal. Motivation. It's all about motivation. It's a comprehensive course, no doubts. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. All right. So as the academic director of PGPCC, I am not going to sugarcoat this. I'm going to absolutely call, what it looks like. This is a comprehensive course. It's a fairly intense course. And I'll give you some of the examples in terms of what we cover and why we cover in that particular order so that you can get an idea. There are lots and lots of cases that you're going to work on. There's a lot of hands-on that you're going to work on, because the best way to learn is by doing it. Best way to learn. Now, the thing is, you might be asking yourself a question. Is this a technical course? Is it? Make no mistake, it is. But does technical course mean I have to start writing code? Not at all. But do you have to deal with technology things? Yes. It's a data center as a service. What comes out of data center? Technology services. So you have to know something like that. You have to know something around that. You have to at least play around with a little bit of things. Yes. We don't expect you to write code. Come on. So it's like basically saying, oh yeah, I want to be a car mechanic, but I don't like cars. I want to be a farmer, but nah, I don't want to go into the field. I want to be a cloud architect, but I'm not going to talk about technology. You get what I'm saying, right? So yes, absolutely. This is how we are going to be, right? If something is X, we're going to call it an X. So here's the entire journey. And I'm particularly proud of this picture, right? It's like a sinusoidal, it is a sinusoidal wave. And we want to take you in a roller coaster journey. See, entertainment. Yeah. So we start off with, some fundamentals. Then we talk about cloud foundations, where we basically make you aware of the different cloud terms, because all of you might come from different fields. Some of you might be familiar with cloud, some of you might not be. And it's unfair to assume that, hey, all of you might be at least familiar with something. No, we don't do that. So we want to make sure that everybody is on the same level playing field before we start offering the next set of services. AWS. Why AWS? You saw the Gartner Magic Quadrant. AWS is sitting pretty on the right-hand side top. Logical to start with them. Then we talk about managed services. You remember the cases that I talked about that required databases as a service, that required so many services that you want to leverage to deliver systems like those. Then we talk about architecture for the cloud. The restaurant example, right? You should be able to read that and say, okay, I think I have a broad idea. Who am I, sales guy? Okay, how much does it, what kind of skills do you think I need with this? Okay, this is storage as a service, that's Lambda, that is serverless. Okay, these are some databases sitting right here. These are some applications. Okay, what is it they're talking about? Oh, we need some Python skills as well. Okay, I'm trying to create a bill of material, the kind of team that I'm going to look like. Who am I? I'm a project manager. And obviously the developer is a given. You guys better write code, right? And then we are going to talk about big data, analytics. All of these are reality. When the customer grabs a huge amount of data, somebody's got to process that. You need something that can go out there and analyze all of this and advise the customer, hey, you know what, you grabbed all that data, you know what, that product working great, that particular product not so much. People are just not liking that flavor of potato chips that you made. Nah, that's not going to work out. You got to know those. Microservices, everybody talks about that. That's a fancy statement to make, right? Microservices is all over the place. It's kind of augments the entire agility model, isn't it? Right? Build small things, throw them out, try it out, doesn't work, recall them, replace it with. So a lot of agility around this. So if you really see the velocity at which you cater to your customers is so critical these days. I mean, just ask yourself the question. If you go to a particular, service provider, and they are showing the same movie, if they have the same set of shows, do you think you're going to subscribe? At the end of the year, you say, yeah, the subscription is over. That, provider, not so good. They don't have much new material. That is your expectation, isn't it? So what's wrong in the customer's expectation in the organization that you work for to say that as a subscriber of your organization's services, why can't they expect changes? Why can't they expect enhancements? Why can't they expect newer services? If you can expect that, so can your organization's customers. That's the world we are in, right? So actually, if you really look at it, all this agility, we are the ones responsible for it, right? At some point in time, we are the consumers of some services out there, okay? So it's just incredible. It's like a complete circle coming, and all that. All right. So in this journey, you'd also take a look at Microsoft Azure, right? Once we have a good solid foundation in terms of what cloud is, once we have seen AWS, then you also take a look at Microsoft Azure and managed services around that. Along the way, you'll also get other courses. Some of these courses are self-taught and some of these courses are self-study, but we cover a lot of material to give you what we call it as a 360-degree view of the cloud. We want you to look at cloud holistically. We don't want you to basically say, hey, you know what? That's an infrastructure as a service, right? Those are the features. Please mug it. Please remember it, because the quiz that I'm going to give you, I'm going to ask exactly that. This is not school. This is professional stuff. Your organization is not going to basically say, hey, do you have the skill to grab an infrastructure as a service and throw something on there? The customer is going to ask you, I have this problem. What do you think I should do? The question is very different. The skills required, very different. And like I said, I'm not going to talk about the other programs. I'm going to talk about Great Learning's PGPCC. We proudly list out all the services that we cover, and that's 90 plus. You can go to our website and you can count it yourself. We are not going to give you any wishy-washy answer. Yeah, we cover, so-and-so, area, or so-and-so, some gray understanding. We don't do that. We cover 90 services, we cover 90 services, full stop. So you can take a well-informed decision in terms of what you can expect from the program. And in fact, the program is obviously, changing. We make changes and things like that. Now, it's a 6 months program. You're going to work very hard. I can guarantee you that. You're going to work very, very hard. Okay? Hey, no pain, no gain. Right? Time to implement, time to experience that. I'll tell you what, forget about that. I'll tell you this. Quite some time back, when I used to go to, the gym, okay? Yeah, the long time ago. My gym instructor told me, right, after I did maybe about 15 minutes on the treadmill at maybe 7.5, right. And he said, was that it? The gym instructor told me, was that it? I said, yeah. So you have not worked out at all, right? You got to step it up. The moment you step outside your comfort zone, that's when the real workout begins. While that is true, isn't the brain a part of your body? How can you work the brain if you're in your comfort zone? The only way you can get new skills, the only way you can become even more valuable to your organizations is to step out of your comfort zone. It's a very tough statement, no doubts about that. The road is harsh, but the end of it, the price that is in front of you, you could be the ace salesman. You could be the one winning an award for delivering a cloud architecture in a country. You could be the one where the project margins are the best. You could be the one whose project team is the most optimum to deliver a project. That's at the end. Here, this journey, not easy. So like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but the rewards are awesome. So when you work so hard, wouldn't it be nice if you could showcase your skills? We are the only organization, Great Learning, that allows you to have a portfolio, an e-portfolio where you can showcase the projects you've worked on and the kind of effort that you have put in. And we allow you to publish this on social media handles like LinkedIn, etc. So you can maintain your e-portfolio, right, which could be a way to flaunt your skills. I mentioned earlier, this is a program by practitioners for practitioners such as you. Yes, we do teach, of course, that's because we like it, right? Yes, we have mentoring sessions because we love to share our experiences. We love to share our failures. We love to share what we learned by working on live projects. And these are some of the guys. It's just a representational picture, right? So we would be there to help you, right, understand some of these technologies by taking practical examples. Now you might be wondering, okay, so who I be learning with? What does a typical batch look like? The recording obviously will be there later, so you can take a look at all of this material and pause it and do a little bit of a reading. But let me tell you this. When you have a team, when you have a batch, when you have a group of people, right, who comes with, decades of experience, collectively, you have hundreds of person years of experience, cumulative experience. Isn't this a golden environment where learning can basically be just incredible? Obviously, we are going to provide a lot of material. Obviously, we are going to, talk and teach about a whole bunch of things. But you know what? You can also take advantage of your peers' experience. They can come and say, oh yeah, you know what? I, learned that, I tried to do something, and hey, you know what? These are the things where the problem was. And you know what? I'm currently in a project, where this was a problem, and this is how cloud is looking to solve it. You could be from retail, and this other individual could be from pharmaceuticals. Cross-domain idea exchange. Something that really worked in some other domain, you could say, that worked well there. Let me see if it works well for me. Isn't this a valuable environment where you can learn, not just from Great Learning, but also amongst yourself, and take that collective value back to your organization? Yes, it is a technical course. Yes, the topics are technology. Cloud computing gives data center as a service. Data center is all about technology. I already talked about you're not required to write code, but you have to deal with some grease. What's grease we are talking about? Well, you need to take some technology stuff and deploy and stuff like that. Well, if you want to be a car mechanic, you can't be afraid of grease. If you want to be a great cloud star meaning developer, architect, salesperson, project manager, financial controller, whatever it might be, cloud star, you got to deal with cloud and what it has to offer, right? We are also partnered with AWS Educate. So what you're also going to get apart from the Great Learning material, right, is an Educate account, which you'll have to create. And as part of that, right, you're going to get, AWS Educate job board, job listings. Obviously, Great Learning also has a job portal, right, where job postings are put periodically. You can interact with what we call it as career support. So you could get that and a whole bunch of additional material just to make sure that we give you all the tools for you to succeed. Now, obviously, we can only give you the tools. If you're motivated enough, you're going to transform those tools into something, right, into a formidable force that you can take to your enterprise and say, oh, you know what, next time when you get a project like that, I'm the person for you to deliver that. All right. So here are some things that people have to say for us. Take a look. It was draining, tiring. 30 years of experience. Imagine. He feels born again after 30 years in the industry. Imagine. Walkthroughs, demos, hands-on labs, all of these you're going to get. Oh, that seems to be a repeat. Hey, technology. There was this one individual who was extremely creative, I must say. Okay, so I was forced to use his review. And the final one. This guy was actually, not very, novice in cloud. So the question is, again, like our alumni, if you're motivated to solve real customer problems, if you want to find out, why am I doing this? What is it that my customer requires? And you want to really understand that from inside out and not just a superfluous high-level understanding, then we will welcome you in the cloud computing program. So that's what I had to share with you, right? In fact, I forgot to mention during the beginning of the session, I will take questions at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So let me take a look. Okay, so the first question is, how do you ensure that there is no leak of data while you host data in the cloud, right? So there's a very interesting term in the cloud, and it is championed and pioneered by AWS. It's called shared responsibilities model, right? What it basically means is, right, on the cloud, every party is equally responsible, which is, the cloud provider as well as you. Now, let me ask you this. I created a machine, okay, an infrastructure as a service, a virtual machine, whatever. I throw my database on it, and the root user ID is admin. The root password is admin. That particular machine has a public IP address, and it is open for all. It's just a matter of time. In fact, it's funny that you asked this question. In 2014, I guess, when I was working as a consultant for one of these organizations, I did an experiment. I'm serious about this, right? This is not something that I'm cooking up. I did an experiment to find out how long does it take if I did exactly what I just told you before the database is breached. So you know what I did? This is exactly admin, public IP address, open for all, right? And I had a single table in there called employee. It had a single record in there. As a thank you for participating in this experiment. I know you have hacked into this particular database. I just wanted to find out how long it took for you to do this. I did that experiment, 7 days. I think it was about a week. So yeah, I can guarantee you, you asked the question, how do you ensure that there is no leak of data? There will be a leak of data if you do things like this. And there's nothing the cloud can do this. Cloud can give you the tools to say that, can you do an evaluation of my infrastructure to ensure that I have not done silly things like this? I don't have a public IP address which everybody can access. There are means and ways to do that. I have never ran that tool. So the question is, the cloud will help you in many things, but I'll tell you what, you need to walk on those footsteps. You need to walk on the guidelines given by the cloud provider. If you do not do that, nobody can guarantee security. When you lock your house and you go for a vacation, oh, you so wish you can go for a vacation now, don't you? Yeah, yeah. Right? Do you think you're guaranteeing security of your house? It is just a hope that the lock will protect me. You get that? So equal responsibility, you and the cloud provider. Just because you're using a cloud provider, please do not be under the misconception everything is going to be hunky-dory, everything is going to be secure. That's not true. Question number 2. Cloud services has played an important role in 2020. Oh, you bet they did, especially work from home. How did organizations plan and adapt themselves to accommodate this change? What kind of job roles, profiles does this open up for young professionals who are quite early in the career? I think I already mentioned a bunch of those roles, right? You could be a developer, you could be a team lead, you could be an architect, you could be a manager, you could be a salesperson, you could be anyone, cloud star. As I mentioned with those cases, when an organization wants to go cloud, you really need to look at it holistically. Is it just about the applications going over to the cloud? Really? What about the processes around it? What about the operations around it? Previously, I was logging into the servers in my own server room. Now I have server which is sitting in some third party. I have a problem. Incident management. Do you think all of these ITIL processes, don't you think they need to be tuned? Don't you think they need to be cognizant of the fact that there is a third-party provider who's an equal player in delivering services to my customers? So if you really look at it, just think of it like this. Okay, I'm going to make a statement. There is nothing called as cloud computing. How about that? It is using somebody else's data center and somebody else's servers. Okay, right? As a service. So at the end of the day, whether we talk about serverless, yeah, it does require servers. It's just that you don't manage them. You do need machines to deploy your applications. It just happens to be in somebody else's building and not yours. That's the only difference. If that is the case, do you think all the things that we were responsible for in terms of processes, etc., same thing will apply? Some things have gotten simpler, agreed. You don't have to physically manage machines anymore, right? But there are some things that have gone and there are some things that have been added, right? So yeah, in my opinion, these organizations had to cross-skill, reskill, and a lot of learning had to happen before this thing actually could be implemented. And it's just phenomenal, right? I mean, the moment something happens which is a significant and impactful change to the way industry historically worked, people find ways to get things done quickly. That's how mankind works. How safe is my data with the cloud? I think I already answered that. What is a multi-cloud environment? How are organizations using them? So, okay, it's like this. I have cloud provider A and I have cloud provider B. As an organization, I need certain capabilities from the cloud providers to make sure I can satisfy my customers. I can delight my customers. It so turns out that cloud provider A has good set of services for A, B, and C in my list of items, and cloud provider B, the second cloud provider, right, has good services for, let's say, the others. Now, should I make a compromise, right, to say that, let me take only one cloud and try to go there? Maybe. Why? Imagine if you have 10 items. I, the customer, I want 10 items. Okay, out of these 10 items, 8 are serviced by cloud provider A. There's a good chance I might go only with cloud provider A. But if it's about 50-50, let's take broadly, right, then do you think 50% compromise? That's a lot. So the organization might say, okay, for these go here, for these go here, multi-cloud strategy. Now, is that a great start for an enterprise? I don't think so. It just makes things complex naturally. Instead of one cloud provider, now you have to deal with multiple. How can that be simple? But you know what? Isn't that an opportunity for us? Isn't that an opportunity for you? Isn't that an opportunity to amass skills, to basically be with any organization that has either cloud provider A or cloud provider B? Well, it just depends how you look at it, right? Again, perspectives, but just to kind of let you all know that, yeah, that's what it is. So when you deal with multiple cloud providers to take advantage of their strengths, that's multi-cloud strategy. Okay. More talk about the syllabus. I think I already did that. The sinusoidal wave, right, which is what it is. Is it a 6 months or 8 months course? It is a 6 months course, but what happens is we have something called as, projects and things like that. A capstone, right? That is something that you'll have to kind of put together yourself. So those take time, right? So you can think of it as we will require about 8 months, 7 to 8 months of your time. Like, yeah, we're not going to say 6 months and then just say, oh, sorry, did we not tell you that it's going to take a little bit longer? Don't do that. Okay. So yeah, budget 8 months. Okay. Yeah, it's an online course. It's, you can go through the material, and then, during the weekends, there are discussions, etc. Is it through the weekends? I think I just answered that question. Okay. Hey, what do you know? I can read minds. Okay. No, I did not see that question up ahead. Is it through weekends or daily? Job may affect my time devotion to the course. Look, I don't know who asked that question, but you will have to devote time, full stop. If you want me to say, oh yeah, it's going to be simple, no big deal, right? I'm not going to say that. Okay, right? It is an intense course, because unless you put in okay, let me ask you this. If you're a fast bowler, if you want to bowl a bouncer, do you think you can do exactly the same thing? Or you really have to bend your back and really put in that extra effort so that the ball bounces? You have to take that effort. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this. No. If it impacts your time and things like that, and if you don't have enough time, do not sign up. Right? I'm being very straight and honest with you. Okay? Right? But the question is, how are you going to approach this? If you can spare about an hour every day and probably a couple of hours during the weekend, you should be okay. Right? We're not going to say that, oh, during the entire day, we're going to take about 8 hours. No, that's not the case. Right? It usually ranges anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. But when I say 45 minutes to an hour, that's 60 minutes of undivided, not getting distracted anywhere time. If you can do that on a daily basis, you'll be totally fine. Okay. All right. Data safety as a consumer of cloud. Can a consumer encrypt the data before delivering to the cloud? Absolutely. In fact, when you encrypt your data, you need something called as, keys, encryption keys. If you are paranoid of the fact, maybe you're a financial institution and you're saying, look, this key, I don't even want the cloud provider to have access. So what I want to do is I want to literally store it in a box, which the cloud provider also does not have access. Hardware security modules, you can get that. So you're using not only your key, but the cloud provider also does not have access to the key. So there's no one but you who can potentially decrypt the data and make sense of it. Alternatively, what you can do, you can use infrastructure as a service and deploy. There are some open source systems which allow you at a column level encryption, and they basically have a fabric right on top, which basically says user A gets to see column A, B, and C with certain roles and will not get access to the rest of the columns. You can build systems like that too, but that would require some specialized skills and understanding of these technologies. These are typically not out of the box, but if you want to encrypt data and store it in a system, out of the box. If you want to encrypt the database as DB files on the physical storage, on the cloud, of course, out of the box. If you want to encrypt the data between two systems while the data is in flight, out of the box. If you want to encrypt the data from your VM to your database on the cloud, out of the box. So it kind of depends, like, what you're looking, to encrypt. Oh, by the way, I have to also tell you this. These cloud providers, they provide physical devices as well, right? Which basically allows you to move a large quantum of data from on-prem to the cloud, right? And you do have the ability to encrypt there as well. Okay. All right. Any more? Oh, okay. A couple of more questions. Do we get any real-time experience on projects, cases? What happens to companies which use cloud as a service? Industry requirement. Well, we would like to believe that the projects and cases and the quizzes and the capstone and the rest of the reading material will be in line in terms of what a typical industry requires. In fact, the cases which I talked about in the past, we cover pretty much most of the services, which we feel is the common denominator. So we give you plenty of opportunities to try them out in actual projects. Now the question is, if you're not from technology background, you're from, let's say, a non-technical background, then what you could do is, how those things are done, but we'll give you enough material to, or enough instructions to help you, do those exercises. So yeah, in addition to that, what we always encourage folks to do is to create your own cloud account, and you can experiment, whatever you wish there, right? So yeah, we do talk about the different services, and if you want to do more, feel free to do that, right? I'll tell you what, this is all about, again, tying back to that, dimension, which is motivation. If you're motivated enough, you will do this, right? And we will help you in that journey, no doubts about that. Can we get a session with alumnus to understand their experiences, struggle, and pain points? How many hours did they dedicate, and trouble points? Well, I can't promise you that. But I am not too sure how that can be arranged. But if you have any questions in terms of the pain points, I think I already told you that, right? I already told you that we are not going to sugarcoat anything, right? I already said that, hey, you know what? We will require some time on a daily basis. If you are working 23 hours out of 24, PGPCC is not for you, right? Guaranteed. We say that, yes, it's a 6 months program, but I told you it takes about 7 months, budget 8 months. If you can't dedicate that time, PGPCC is not for you, right? And more importantly, and this is the big term, and I'm going to use it probably the 4th or the 5th time. If you don't have the motivation and inclination to really bend your back, right, to really get familiar with some of these things, which, by the way, all the customers expect modern cloud professionals to have, right? If things are, I'm not suggesting you are saying that, but if you think this is easy, it's not. It's as simple as that. Okay, so yeah, there will be some good days, and there will be plenty of bad days. I can tell you that, right? No pain, no gain. Okay, I think we are the type of people who won't, as I keep mentioning, sugarcoat things. So yeah, that's right. So obviously there will be challenges, but then without challenges, learning is just not good. Let me give you an example, my personal example. I've been working in Java since 1998, I guess. A couple of years after it was released and all that. So I, worked on Java for 20 years or so. In 2016, 2017, right? It so turned out that, hey, you know what, Python was really, really gaining momentum, and it was probably one of the most favored, languages of all times. So I had to learn Python. Why would I want to learn Python after having written my first line of code in 1989? 31 years later, why would I want to learn Python? Is it because I'm looking to get some shortcuts? No. It's basically to make sure that if there is a customer who wants to consult and offer a consulting position, if that customer says, look, We have our infrastructure in Python. Do you know Python? I want to say yes. That's my motivation. You got to find yours. Okay. Is it possible to complete in lesser period if I could engage in full time? No, we don't have that model. But thank you. That's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. Program management team, the guys who are there in the back end, listening to this, that's a great idea, by the way. Okay. So, yeah, sure. But not at this time. It is part-time, on a weekly basis, because it's actually, for full-time professionals. And we do know full-time professionals, time is always a problem. So that's why we don't want to basically say that here's a whole bunch of material on top of the existing already busy, schedule. You need to find out more time. So an hour is not a problem usually, right? Having run this program for over 3 years, with thousands of students going through this particular journey, we have enough information, and we have fine-tuned the program in a way where we have figured that 45 minutes to an hour usually is a sweet spot for a working professional, right? We completely respect the fact that, hey, you guys are working, there are lots and lots of pressures. Believe me, we understand that. Okay, because we are also working professionals. We do teaching, yeah, that's fine, we do that, but we are actually on live projects as well. We do know what pressures is about. Okay, so that's the reason why we felt that that time is most optimum. So yeah, that's right. That's the reason why we don't offer that as full time. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that kind words. I really appreciate that. Um, okay. Oh, okay. Good, 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 good. All right. Good. All right. Wonderful. Yeah, there's somebody who just wrote there was a session that I did with him for career counseling. So good to see you here. All right. Next question. Will not the course be on cloud, blockchain, IoT, cover cloud aspects? Yes, actually, that's the IIT Madras course. It does have a cloud component in there, but that focuses predominantly on just one segment, one sliver, which is IoT, right? It does not cover the other things which we just talked about here. So yes, yeah, if you're already a student there, all right, fair enough, right? You can go through that. It's a fantastic course, I can tell you that. It's really, really wonderful. The way it has been curated and things like that, it's beautiful. Okay. In fact, that is one thing that we take great pride at Great Learning, that all our courses are, curated and very, very relevant and, to the point. It essentially, if we take, so one of the things about Great Learning is if we take a particular subject, we want to really, focus on that and do our best. So yeah, I think that's a great course. You finish that, right? You finish that. I don't think you should do PGPCC simultaneously. That will be too much of a load, right? In fact, there's a question, by the way, which basically talks about that program. And yeah, don't take on multiple things at the same time. Don't. You finish that, probably take a breather, and then consider PGPCC. Right? In terms of the course outline, please go to our website, right? And just type in Great Learning. Just do a Google search, Great Learning postgraduate program in cloud computing, or just say PGPCC, and you should be able to get the list of all the services that we offer and the entire layout of the program, including duration and everything. Okay. All right. Looks like there are no more questions. Okay, fantastic. So, all right, folks. So it was great to have you here, right? And just make sure that you think it through in terms of if you are looking to get your hands dirty, if you want to explore an opportunity in the world of cloud computing, this is the program for you. All right. So this is good.